Hello and welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. There you go. It's so early this morning, Christine. And I'd like to welcome aboard Christine Dykeman to the show. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
No, thank you. Yes, I've got a coffee this morning, so that's good. I can't believe I just about forgot what my show's called. But Christine Dykeman, I won't call you Christine Dykeman the whole way through, but I am super thrilled to have you on board, and what a action-packed, thrilling topic that we're going to be discussing this morning because it's so up my alley in terms of you're the founder of Lighthouse Engagement Advisors and a strategic thought partner for companies reimagining how they work. And I love that whole reimagining piece. You've got credentials in HR, plus all the, other various acronyms that go with HR and project management, PMP. You help leaders navigate the shift from control-based workplaces to engagement-led cultures. Your belief is simple but radical, and that employment as we know it is dead. And so that's really interesting, and it's quite a bold statement. It's radical. You succeed to succeed in the next era of work, we must treat employees like we treat customers, respect personalization and purpose. And you work across various industries to make that vision real through strategy, facilitation, and values-aligned leadership programs. My goodness, tell us all about
That
it.
is it.
Tell us all about it. How long have you been pursuing this dream of yours, this business of yours? How did you come about that work as we know it is dead? Yeah, tell us all about it.
Making the transition from most of my clients were on the job seeker side and they were trying to figure out how to get a job. And we talked about networking and resume building and rewriting and LinkedIn and all those things. And basically, we talked about portfolio careers and how you take those transferable skills that you already have that you've had all your life and you've kind of morphed them and changed them through the different careers and jobs that you've had to make them appealing to a employer as you are applying. And they have done a phenomenal job. Everyone that I've ever met is totally on board, but the employer side was never really embracing that. So even though a lot of articles and experts in the field talked about skills-based hiring and dropping degree requirements and hiring for the tasks that are required of a job and not the job title, what you've had in the past, nobody really did that, whether it was HR or senior management or CEO, C suite. Everyone hiring or having a decision input didn't embrace that. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to start my business on that side and talking about how it is of a benefit to a organization to think about how to do this and why they should do this because all the job seekers are ready to go. You just need to look right at them.
Wow. And is that from your own experience as well? Like, is that from a lived experience of
Yeah.
yours? Or, yeah, like, so in terms of, what you've previously done to now, was that also like something that was, from your own experience that you were like, this has got to change?
Yes. When I first started, I've changed industries a lot, and you may be surprised. I went to school for culinary arts and figured out right away I love to eat, but I hate cooking. So if you put me in a restaurant, I will eat everything on the menu, but I don't want to cook it and prepare it. So I morphed and changed lots of times. I've been in pretty much every industry about except for about three. And so I've seen the way the inner workings of all of those different industries, the jobs, the structure, the career ladders, and have that exposure. Then when I started going into the HR part of things, I was able to really communicate with job seekers and those that were looking for different positions or looking to change careers, and how do they make that leap with those transferable skills? Do they have to get a certification, start all over again? And so there was a lot of give and take and going back and forth. And these people have these skills, but I noticed that the employers didn't really want anything to do with the people that didn't have a degree in such and such field, or they wanted very specific requirements, and they weren't really willing to look outside the box. We're at the point now where we have AI. We have all of these changes that are going on in society. And now is the perfect time for an organization to really get on board and build up their clientele, build up their employees and their organization to move forward, embracing not only AI, but all the different skills that people have, as opposed to trying to find that purple unicorn that so many people can't find.
Yes,
It was very
so
frustrating for me. Oh,
yeah,
yes,
so interesting. And you're pretty
absolutely.
vocal on LinkedIn. And thank you for bringing me into your kind of pushing
Yes,
agenda, because it's really interesting because like what you're talking about here is that as a society we've always been conditioned to climb our career ladder, and employers have always
yes.
looked at everything from a very hierarchical perspective. And yet what I read,
Hmm.
and no doubt you've read, and like even from my own last few years, I've gone from that career ladder to now a career wall, where I'm using my skills that 25 plus years in advertising and communications. I'm using all those skills, but I've also then upskilled. I've gone back and studied and trained, and I've traversed. And so that it's that whole career walk
Yes,
piece, right? But it's even interesting in that in itself for me because, yeah, some companies are like, well, you haven't always done, inside out transformation or change, when actually I have in a different capacity.
yes,
And so you don't get an eye in at times because you don't have all the credentials behind you, but yet you have so much experience, so much knowledge, lived experience, you're fully
lived
upskilled.
experience.
But
Absolutely. And
looking at it on paper,
yeah,
and so I can only
yes.
imagine like as an employee seeking, because I know at times I'm
Hmm.
like what do I have to do differently? Do I have to go back and fit into that
Yes,
square box, when actually no, this is about that career wall. What's your thoughts?
absolutely. The traditional way that you would look is that career hierarchy, or looking at, a pyramid, and you want it to be at the top and not one of the bottom rung. And we're just kind of just throwing out the window. We're not like inverting it. We're not making circles and squares and triangles. We are just throwing it out the window and using those skills that are everyone's bringing to the table, but to the organization's best ability. And by having cohesive teams and using having the mindset of hiring intrapreneurs for your organization with a certain skill set, they may be hired for one particular thing, but they have all this other experience from working on previous cohesive teams that they're bringing to the table. Oh, you know a little bit about IT. Oh, you know a little bit about marketing. Oh, you're hired for one thing, but yet you have all this other knowledge. It makes you more marketable and a better employee. And then you can also work with everybody else and know what they're talking about, but be able to learn and pick things up. By also bringing in entrepreneurs to your organization, most times, just like you said, you upskilled yourself. You knew, hey, I have a weak link here. Let me learn a little bit more about that. Most entrepreneurs upskill themselves. So when people say, oh, we don't have the money to upskill or reskill our organization, well, these people already have done it themselves. So the company can save money by bringing those people in and having them think like owners of a company without taking that necessary risk. It's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah. And I don't even know if it's about a weak link at times. For me, it was just more that I wanted to stop climbing the way I was climbing and do something different. Because, I knew that was a bigger role for me to fulfill in my life and making a difference in
Mm-hmm.
the world, in business, in with leaders. And so for me, it was just a no-brainer. Like, AI, like, of course, like it's here, it's not going away. And so I was
Yes.
thinking, okay, well, then
Yes.
how do I ensure that I'm staying relevant and that I'm working with, what can I offer going forward, that will, work with AI, but also ensure that, it comes back to this, you talk about it, that personalization, the human potential
Mm-hmm.
aspect. Tell me, in terms of the employers you're working with, how are you then, because work as we know it is dead is super radical. Are you going into employers like and talking to them about the need to be more, I would call it formless, but more open-minded, embracing them, moving away from a fixed form, a rigid form into a new form and letting it form itself with these employees? How are you changing? How are you making the changes and shaping the future of work with regards to what you're doing?
I think that it's a change of culture mindset. Most people are walking in thinking, okay, well, now we have AI, so we're going to use AI to do everything we've already been doing for the past however many years. And instead of capitalizing on the fact that we have this wonderful technology and using it to your benefit, also using the people in other aspects
Yeah.
so that they can bring their skills to the table while they're letting AI do those mundane tasks and keeping an eye on it. So we all know that technology is going to change things. We are all understand that. But when you keep humans at the center of everything else and let your technology still be there and capitalize on it, but in the background, you're going to be a better positioned for the future of work. And you're going to win out when you have that competition between who's going to succeed and who's going to fail, who's the race to the moon, so to speak.
That's really interesting. What do you see as the biggest challenges then in terms of this like making this fundamental shift, this transformation of like what would you call this new era of work if the current, work as we know it is dead? What is this? Is work, does work, the term work still exist? Like what, like do we shake it right up? Let's like, in terms of being radical, like what would you call this new way?
I think work is still going to exist, but it's not going to be what I think that a lot of people are like, well, we've always done it that way. Oh, we tried to do it that way and it just didn't work. And changing that mindset to get to bring in more people and their ideas that no, let's try it this way now that we have these other tools.
Mm.
Let's try adding to it or maybe subtracting that one piece in order to make it work better so we can get to that next point to try this piece. I think that you're just going to see it morph a little bit. We're going to be focused not so much on delegating and telling people what to do as managers, but we're going to ask them, well, what would you do?
Okay.
How can you solve that problem? So that a manager can focus on other parts of their business and not be constantly putting out fires. When you stop making demands on employees and let them be the humans and thought use their brains, then the reason you hire them, then you're going to see this total transformation for the organization and they're going to be succeeding faster than they ever thought possible.
I love that. And I also think, like, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. They're going to succeed faster than they ever thought possible. Employees are going to be more engaged. They're going to be, critical problem solving or critical thinking is one of the top jobs, coming
Yes.
in 2030 when you look at what is going to be eliminated because of AI, and like you say, from a productivity and efficiency perspective. But there's so many roles that are going to come even more alive from a human perspective. Where was I going with this? I've had almost all my coffee. I forgot to say, like, you're in New Jersey and it's like evening for you and it's early morning for me, Melbourne, Australia. But oh, where was I going with this? Do you ever have that
I
moment
would
when
be the
you're,
same way without my coffee.
yeah, do you ever have that when you're thinking if you've got this great thought and then you lose
All of a
it?
sudden, yes.
Yeah, but we were talking about the future of work, and what was I just saying? I was just talking about, oh my gosh, don't you hate that? Like, oh, I think we just have to keep talking. It's going to come back to me in a minute. I'm having one of those little brain freezes, but
It's
um,
okay. It's okay.
yeah,
I
but
just think that when you look around at what you have and the capabilities, can you imagine if any organization decided to actually capitalize on bringing all these entrepreneurs into their organization and say, have at it? Like you all have a goal and you're making a widget, but how you make the widget could be four different ways that you never even thought of because you're actually embracing and listening to your employees and they're giving wonderful suggestions that you never thought were possible because you never asked before. And that goes into how you're managing and you're letting them take ownership of your product so that it is truly a team in every sense of the word and not just the words on paper.
I love that. And it's also kind of like you were moving away from a top down and it's almost
Mm-hmm.
like top down,
Yes.
bottom ups. The two are coming together in terms of rather than just like you have
Yes.
to do it this way, which is back to that hierarchical
Exactly.
piece. We're allowing
Yes.
people
And
to,
I love how you had said earlier, like just taking your career and going sideways. I'm going to learn a little bit of this. I'm going to learn a little bit of that, as opposed to trying to rise to the top or kind of scoot around to get to the top over here or side diagonal or whatever. It's like you can learn all of these different things and you can learn them from your peers. It doesn't have to be some kind of formal type schooling where you go to class and study from a book or anything. You're learning side by side by helping them to get out your product and whatever that happens to look like.
yeah, and I also think it comes down to well-being, doesn't it? Or whole-being in terms of
Absolutely.
when you're climb, you can do it. You can absolutely do it. I did it.
Stressful.
You've done it, but it's not sustainable. So how do
Yes.
you find a way in terms of the future of work? Because, work is dead as we know it because working, these 80 plus hours a week, working, like just working and getting up, going to work, coming home, and like just constantly doing the same old. It's not
Yes, that
fulfilling.
hamster
Like it's
wheel.
like what you're saying,
No.
and then you're always going to get the same answers, the same results. I've come back to
Yes.
what I was going to talk to you about before. So you're not really. I look at it from a solution finding perspective because when we talk about problem solving, I should say, we always go
Mhm.
problem solve, but actually, is that the solve for that particular problem? And what you're talking about here is bringing these entrepreneurs in. It's like what is possible in terms of because you've got all these different people with all these different skills, like diverse of thought, and they're able to go
Yes.
problem. Oh, what if we look at it this way? What if we look at it that way and get to an even better solution? And we were talking about getting to results faster. I also think I've been doing a bit of a deep dive into happiness and commercials of a business and success of a business.
Yes.
And there's
Hmm.
such an
Hmm.
imbalance because generally businesses chase
Yes.
profitability first. Everyone talks a good game as like, oh, we're all about our people and profitability. But at the end of the day, if
Yeah.
your business isn't performing well, and so I'm really like looking into that at the moment in terms of well, how do we bring the two together? If we're talking about the future of work, let's really look at that. Let's look at getting, yes, commercials are absolutely important, results are important, but people are just as important. So how do we bring the two together? Because once you have that engaged people or engaged employees, again, results are endlessly possible, as are the commercial realities of the business.
It's funny that you say that because I was just having that conversation with someone instead of, you- can you imagine that everything is profits first? Everything is bottom line. Did we make money? And
Yeah,
well, how about we just flip that whole idea and go put the employees first, put the happiness first, because the profits will come.
yeah,
It's a karma thing. Like, if you have happy employees, they're going to want to go to work. They're going to want to do a good job. They're going to be proud of the product that they're putting together and they are trying their hardest. And all of a sudden, that product is going to bring in oodles of money and your profits will shine, but your people are going to be happy. And when you can showcase that, you're going to be, the top employer in the world, and you're going to have all of these wonderful accolades because you just took care of your people. And that's flipping things the opposite of what we're used to. Everything has always been profit. Everything is always you go to work and you work for 40 years and then you retire and you probably drop dead if you don't have a good hobby. I mean, it's just one of those things. And in 2025, I think people, for the most part, have realized like, okay, I don't want to work 80 hours a week. Like you had said earlier, I don't want to do that hamster wheel and get up, go to work, come home, be tired, eat dinner, and do it all again the next day. They want quality of life. And when you can bring that quality into the workplace, then it doesn't feel like work anymore. So do you rename it and you call it something different? I don't know. I'll ask Webster in a couple of years.
yeah. Well,
That's what you're looking for.
yeah, that's why I'm throwing it out there. Like work will always be there,
Yeah.
absolutely. But will it be rebranded, renamed? And it's funny you talk about that because I was in the supermarket last night. I'd just done a hot cardio strength class, and I was walking around
Uh-huh.
and I saw this woman, and she caught my eye because exactly what you're talking about. I looked and it was like a mirror was like being like put in front of me, and I was like, there she was, and she was in her work. She was coming obviously home from work. Her bag was full of just like laptop notes, and I was thinking to myself, my goodness, it's like 7:30 p.m. here, and she's getting all her
Hmm.
groceries clearly to go home and cook dinner. And I bet your bottom dollar she's getting back on that laptop and doing all this work. And I was just like,
Yes.
and it was almost like foreign to me because I was just like, like as a business owner, you're working, you're always thinking, you've
Yes.
got something, but
Of course.
you've got your power up and power down. And I was thinking to myself, gosh, I used to just do that and didn't think anything differently about it. But now I'm like, no, like there's so much more to do. And I think by having the work-life flow, I call it, I don't like the word balance. I think also then, and again, brings fresh perspectives, more clarity to then when you do go back into work, you're
Yes.
clearer. You solve problems a
Yes.
lot more faster. You are
Mhm.
engaged and you're feeling alive and bright. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that that's a
Yes.
really big part of
Absolutely.
it as well. Like, but yet we've got a
Absolutely.
lot to change with that as well. In the pod when you signed up, you signed up when you booked in, and the question I'm asking everyone, and this is becoming quite a research piece, I must say. I'm writing a bit of a thought leadership piece on it, but
Good for
yeah,
you.
the answer you provided around what's one experience or insight, and you talked about employment as we know it is dead. Treating employees as customers for organizational success in the next era of work. The next era of work, do you think that we're here yet, or do you think that it's like what's your timings, do you think, on the next era of work? Like where are we at when it comes to the next era of work in your mind?
I think that we are here now. I think that the the people that are actually looking towards the future of work, so to speak, are ready to get on board. They have been on board or will be by the end of this year. Then there's the others that are, oh, I'm going to sit back and wait and see. I'm going to wait and see what everyone else does and what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And then maybe I'll take a page or two out of their book. And then there's the other people that just put their head in the ground and are like, I'll be dead before the era gets here, so I'm not going to worry about it. There's three different thought process. I think that we are here now, but if you think about our society and how we've morphed and changed of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, the people that have thrown stuff in your face, yeah, we're going to go with that, have been light years ahead of everyone else that was kind of dragging their feet. What do I mean by that? The simplest thing, when we watch TV, we were in the 1950s, there was always a husband and wife in a bedroom, but they were in twin beds, separate. We knew that wasn't necessarily reality, but that's how it was shown on TV. How long did it take for everyone to get on board to show a couple in the same bed? This is the same thing. It's going to take time because you're talking about an entire society changing their thought process. So it's not going to be an overnight thing. It's going to be gradual. But the people that are going to win this race on the future of work and be successful are the ones that are jumping on board now and making that change for the good, for the future. They're going to win.
I love that. I love that. I'm on that train with you. In terms of mindset, what are the fundamentals that you think are required to be open to the new era of work based on the three different, I guess, categories is the wrong word, but you talked around there's three, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
different levels or thought processes, timing. I think that a CEO, an owner of a company, an organization, they need to embrace this entrepreneurial mindset for their employees, for their staff, for working on whatever projects or problems that they are trying to solve so that they can bring things to market. And that is going to be huge. If they're still trying to move forward but doing things the old way, then they're not going to be successful. You can't look back and get to the future. You've got to turn around and look forward and embrace these other things. So we talk about AI, but AI is not the future of work. All of these things make up the future of work, and I think AI is just a piece of it.
Could not agree more. And I love that you're talking about that. If we can't look backwards, we need to look forwards. And yet, somewhat, I think because of what's going on in the world, politically,
Yeah.
like from every aspect of the world, people do
Mhm.
have a tendency to look back because it's like I want it the old way. I want to like even since COVID,
Yes.
like
It
we're
was
was
comfortable. Yes,
comfortable, but this is
comfortable.
this is about embracing the unknown. We are living in a non-linear world. It is about how do we
Yes.
continue what I call to bounce forward? How do we see the possibilities? And yes, it's going to be rocky and it's not going to be from A to B as linear as we once knew it. But that's the world we're living in. It's complex. And so how do we find a way through it? And I think that from a mindset perspective is that having the ability to be adaptable, but we've got to rally around
Yes.
each other because AI is not going to solve everything. It's, you know,
Right.
productivity, efficiency, but we're always going to need humans. We're always going to need people and connection.
Yes.
Connection is a massive part of what we're
Absolutely.
talking about here, don't you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I liken it to the caveman and the wheel. I mean, that was a big piece of technology back then. Before that wheel was invented, and then they're like, "Oh my gosh, what do I do?" All the time, all throughout history, we've had some kind of technology. people have always been the center of all of that change. Jobs left, jobs came, more jobs came. And then we had new technology. And think of the internet. Think of when the car was invented and we put a man on the moon. And there was always some kind of new technology that took us to all those different steps. But if we kept looking back at that wheel, we never would have gotten to the moon. If we kept looking back at the new car, we never would have gotten to that internet. So we have to look forward to see what those possibilities are. And with the connections and people that are surrounding us and everybody's input, we can go really, really far as a society.
So what a couple of things that you feel that we need to be doing as a society or, from a work perspective right now to take us forward or continue to take us forward?
I think that it's okay for everybody to, I'm trying to think of how I could put this. I think it's okay to be curious. I think it's a good thing to be curious. And some people may have an answer or an idea, and some people may not. And to be able to work through that curiosity and ask questions and lean on your connections, lean on your fellow workers, lean on your friends, and see if you can come up with a solution. Because if you don't know the answer, then maybe somebody else does. But more heads together, you can brainstorm and figure it out. And I think that that is the number one. We're so isolated and I have to do this by myself and I have to work really hard to get promoted all by myself and I can't lean on a network. I can't, go to a friend or anything like that. Stop turning around and look forward because these people want to help lift you up that mountain. They do not want to step on your head and squish you down the mountain.
I
And I
love
think
that.
that when everybody embraces that, um, we're going to see a lot of change quickly.
Yeah. I love your mission, the mission that, work
Mhm.
as we know it is dead. And how do we find out more about what you're doing? How do we follow you on, like, I mean, you're obviously present on LinkedIn. Where can we find out more about you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn, and then I have a website, lighthouseengagement.com. So the two of those things, that's where I'm focusing on now. And down the road, you might see a book or so.
I was about to say, I feel like I
Yes,
feel like I've got a
yeah.
sixth sense with you. I'm like, where's that? I could, like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, book, book, book. And I'm looking at the books all behind you.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, oh, there's definitely
Yes,
a
my
book
library.
coming. One final question for you, Christine. What does this time next year look like when it comes to work in your mind?
I hope to be continuing to have conversations with C-suite executive leadership, finding out what their pain points are and how we can really get an embracing of the movement to have all of these people contribute to their mission of their organization so that we can all succeed. I would like to have more presence with them and more conversations to be able to execute that and find out what's going on and how I can help and how I can make those matches because everybody's connected to somebody who knows somebody else and nothing is impossible.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, nothing is impossible. I love a good old Audrey Hepburn. I love her, full stop. But
Yeah,
I love a good,
it's not.
everything's possible. Nothing's impossible. Thank you so much,
That's true.
Christine. I've loved our chat, and I feel like, yeah, we've got a bit of a kindred spirit going on here, and just the whole
Yes.
term of work is dead as we know it. I could not agree more. And it's not radical. I think it's just more that, it's taking people on the journey as to why we have to bounce forward. This is this is a moment in time, this is a moment in history. It's, as like
Yes.
crazy as the world is and, scary and a lot going on, it's also this is when we get to reshape, redefine, reimagine what the future looks like.
Yes.
And people like you, people
Absolutely.
myself, that are trailblazing through, that are at the forefront of, we have to pursue this. We have to follow through for society, for humans, for people, for connection, to make the place to make the world a better place. So I've loved our chat, and no doubt I feel like we'll be
Thank
chatting
you.
more. Um, and
Sounds good.
yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a
Very nice talk.
lovely evening, and I hope it gets a bit cooler tonight for you. I've got the heater going, you've got the aircon going. So
And for, yes, and you warmer.
thanks, Christine.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Enjoy. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.